and that was when she met Narazaki. There were no traces of her life between the time she left that religious organization and when she met him. She just somehow appeared before Narazaki, then vanished again. This religious group also bothered Kobayashi. It was the sort of thing one just shouldn't get involved in. And now she had already moved out of the apartment he'd seen her enter. Kobayashi stared listlessly at the counter. The three bartenders looked like triplets. They moved slowly and emotionlessly. Kobayashi shook his head slightly. I understand you're puzzled, but in any case, she's not dead. That I confirmed. And given that, look, what's clear is that she left you. She probably had her reasons. I understand that's not enough to satisfy you, but she left you. Kobayashi's whole investigation of this woman had felt strange. As he traced her history, it was as if a single line had been prepared for him to follow. Like she was somewhere in the distance, beckoning him. Kobayashi took another sip of whiskey. She should have known he worked at an investigator's office. Had she shown herself to him that first time on purpose? But why? Why would she do that? Listen, Kobayashi turned to face Narazaki. Let me say this clearly. I've got a bad feeling about this. You shouldn't try to find her. There's no need for you to get dragged into whatever this is. Why? You have your life. My life? You could get hurt. That doesn't matter. Kobayashi would remember, for the rest of his life, Narazaki's next words. The life I lived. That life has no value at all. Kobayashi stared for a second at Narazaki's face. In the end, he handed him the envelope filled with everything he'd found about Ryoko Tachibana. There was a small commotion at the table next to them. Kobayashi sipped his whiskey. As he drank, he realized he was getting drunk so he would be able to give the envelope to Narazaki. He watched Narazaki open the envelope, wondering what his role was. If this were a novel, he probably wouldn't be anything more than a side character. Whatever happened to whom, it would have nothing to do with him. He'd just be the cog that happened to set things in motion. The other customers gradually headed home. Eventually, only Narazaki and Kobayashi were left in the dim bar. The blue lights illuminated only Narazaki. Though there was no longer any need for him to drink, Kobayashi ordered another whiskey. His life had no value. That's what Narazaki said. That may be true, Kobayashi thought. Even to Kobayashi, Narazaki's life did not seem like a fulfilled one. Certainly, his life was not something anyone would be jealous of, just like Kobayashi's. Part 1. 1. In front of Narazaki was a gate. It was an old, enormous wooden gate. There was something written on it, but the characters had faded, and Narazaki couldn't make them out. Should I go straight in? Narazaki was unsure. There's something strange about this place. But isn't it just a normal house? It seems more like a house than a church or temple. The gate cut through the frigid air and towered over Narazaki. It seemed like it was looking down on him, testing him, about to pass down some sort of judgment. Looking up at the gate, Narazaki was made aware of the smallness of his own body. He wasn't ready to go in, so he walked past. The building was surrounded by tall brick and clay walls, and Narazaki couldn't see inside. He recalled Kobayashi's report. Ryoko Tachibana had certainly belonged to this group. The founder was named Shotaro Matsuo, a man who called himself an amateur intellectual. The group seemed to be some sort of religious organization, but they didn't have a proper name. They weren't registered as a religion, and the whole concept of believing in their faith seemed foreign to them. They didn't worship a particular god. In fact, the group's focus seemed to be pondering the question, is there a god?